Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Look, something stinks over at the WBC. The more we think about what's going on, the more frustrating it is trying to pinpoint why they even made this damn fight between Thurman and Spence. I don't see. There was really no rush to make this fight. There's really no gain to Spence. There's really no gain to Thurman, except for maybe a decent payday. But the reason I say there's no gain because now that I have a better understanding of the situation, right? It's a non-title fight. So this was just something that was ordered solely by the WBC. Now I know the WBA was saying, the special permit, they didn't seem involved, but I wasn't too sure about the IBF, but now it's pretty straightforward because Sulaiman kind of cleared it up. Kind of, right? This is just something being ordered by the WBC. But the other two belts, definitely, those organizations have nothing to do with what's happening between Spence and Spence and Keith Thurman. So the thing is this, right? Why would Sulaiman make this fight? Now, what I will say is, now that I'm thinking about it, he made this fight. Now, he knew that Keith Thurman could, as a WBC mandatory, right? Because I did some brainstorming. He knew that Keith Thurman, as the WBC mandatory, could block that fight. Or he'd want step-aside money. Now, this is what they're not saying. I don't know this. This is just gap filler, okay? I think Thurman's made it damn near impossible for Earl Spence to give him step-aside money. And I think that could be what happened here, where he's like, nah, if you're not going to give me my shot, give me step-aside money. But he's still not getting his shot. At least that's what we thought, right? Now, Sulaiman said something. He really wasn't saying much. He was just, that man was like the Matrix in there, boy. Talking about, just dodging question after question. What really got my attention and what I find the most alarming, he said that at this time, right, he's saying he didn't want to speculate, which just really blows my mind that him as a WBC president is talking about speculating on what the WBC is going to do, right? What are you speculating about? You're the damn WBC president. If Keith Thurman was to win, right now it's a non-title fight, but they're not sure if Thurman was to win, what the WBC would do. Now, if Keith Thurman wins, then he talked about, the fact that whether Spence or Thurman wins, but it depends on if the guys are going to stay at 154 or not. But if Thurman was going to win, if Thurman wins and decides to drop back down to 147, there's a possibility, whether win or lose, right? But especially if he drops down to 147, that could have been considered. That fight between him and Spence could have checked the box as Keith Thurman filling his obligation to fight as the mandatory. Okay, and then Earl Spence checks the box as having defended against his mandatory. Although the fight's being contracted at 154, it could possibly check the box for the welterweight mandatory. Now that is just crazy. And for those of you who are watching this and saying, no, that's not possible. That's not how this works. I'm going to tell you, there's nothing about what they're doing right now is how it's supposed to work. So so let's not come now and expect him to do something that's going to make sense now. Now I personally think, just listening to Sulaiman, right? He has an idea on what he wants to do. Nobody knows. They had that man sitting right there asking him questions, and Sulaiman was just, that guy just wouldn't really give a straight answer on anything. But when you look at it, if Keith Thurman was to win, and now if somehow they go against all the rules that they have in force, right? They have in place, right? Because all the sanctioning bodies, they work independent of each other. So, they can do what the hell they want. But if for some reason Keith Thurman beat Earl Spence, and then he said, "Hey, I'm gonna fight at 147." Okay, I just fought Spence for whatever reason, and then the WBC decides to give him the WBC title at welterweight. Now, I can't even wrap my head around that, but after listening to that man talk yesterday, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to pull something like that. But then what happens? Now you got Keith Thurman as a WBC champion. Now he's down at welterweight. Then you have those other two titles that become vacant. They can't just... Well, Earl Spence will still have those titles, but if Earl Spence decides to continue fighting at 154, those two titles become vacant. Now, this is what I'm interested in knowing. Let's say that's the situation. Thurman beats him. He beats Spence. Spence says, "All right, look, I lost. Forget all the titles. I'm staying at 154. Thurman drops down. The WBC does something just beyond mind-boggling and makes Keith Thurman the champion at 147, right? Which would be complete madness. But I don't put anything past the damn WBC at this point. That means you'd have the IBF and the WBA titles vacant. And then you'd have Keith Thurman there, and then you'd have guys fighting for those titles. And then you still have Terrence Crawford over with his WBO. That means there would be no opportunity for an undisputed bout at all. Period. Everything starts off from scratch. Everybody be fighting. And then the sanctioning bodies, all of them are happy because now their titles are all being defended, and they're back in the business of making money, and they don't have to worry about another year and a half of inactivity from champions, where the belts aren't being defended and they're not getting the type of money they're supposed to be making. But it's still, like I said, that's like way, way, way out in left field, a left field way of thinking. But if Earl Spence was to beat Keith Thurman and come back and decide to come back down to 147, then, hey, whatever. It's just a matter of the negotiations taking place. But I just really think there's something more going on there. Something stinks, man. But I'm going to be paying attention. On what the hell is brewing with the WBC. I just don't see why they want to wait and see what Spence is going to do, what his decision is going to be if he wins. It just doesn't make sense. All right? It doesn't make sense. Because if this is the thing, Sulaiman is saying how everyone wants the undisputed, he wants the undisputed between Spence and Crawford. They're saying that, but I don't think deep down they really want that. I don't, because they could have made it happen. I just don't think so. I just don't think so. But I'm going to go ahead and leave the video as that. Terrence Crawford, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. Terrence Crawford needs to take care of himself, because he really can't depend on no damn PBC. He can't, but it's not even them. The sanctioning bodies, the key decision makers. Terrence Crawford can't depend on nobody for him to get an undisputed bout. Don't know what's going on. Earl Spence, the guys over there, but even with him, those key decision makers are the ones complicating this. They need to do what they need to do, man, to stay active, to make money. If Earl Spence is going to bubble up, just bubble up. If Crawford is going to go and fight Pacquiao or whoever's the mandatory in the WBO and give up the belts and do like Mayweather and just fight whoever for the biggest money possible, they need to do that. And us boxing fans, we just need to stop holding our breath on Spence and Crawford happening. Like, it's just, to me, it's out of reach now. I really do think it's out of reach. And with Spence getting in there with Thurman, Spence should be the betting favorite, but like I've already said, I don't think it's that easy of a fight for Spence. But nonetheless, this is just boiling down to me to where these guys got to do what's best for them. Because it just seems, like I said, key decision makers, guys behind the scenes. I've been saying this for months. You look at still what's going on here with the WBC and can't make a decision. And he's talking about speculation. There's something going on where I feel they don't want that fight. And I'm not sure if it's a money thing. I'm not sure something going on behind the scenes with promoters. I'm not sure if it's something between these sanctioning bodies and this BLK Prime crap. Somebody else threw something out there, and it may seem a little crazy, but I mean, at the end of the day, with everything going on, I think any topic should be tabled for discussion. People keep talking about this, something came about the damn, Kenahan and the Irish mob. I already know about that shit, but who knows what the hell is going on and why something that should be so easy, right, is becoming so difficult. You understand? It's like these guys are coming around the track, right? Just come out the beltway, picking up speed, where they should be just about to go across the finish line, no problem. Wave the flags. We've arrived. Now we see who's at the end of the finish line, Crawford and Spence. Let's go ahead, sort things out. But that's not what happened. What happened? Keep getting lapped. Then they lap again. Like, the race should have been finished a long time ago. How many times do they want Crawford and Spence to keep lapping their competition? I'm telling you, there's something going on. Hopefully we'll get the answer on what it is that's going on sooner than later. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. I'm in the breeze.